Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have an exciting show for you tonight. Tim Pate and I will be taking your phone calls here in just a minute. He is joined by Wolfie Siegel, who is going to be providing some musical accompaniment. We have several videotapes this evening of Dr. Todd McCrea, who just passed away last Sunday morning. We'll be talking a little bit more about his life and the huge difference he's made in terms of reintroducing medical marijuana into mainstream American culture. We are going to start out, as we always do, with a hemp news segment. We have a few different stories about the medicinal use of cannabis. And we'll be taking your phone calls here in a little bit, so stay tuned and hang on, and let's bring out our infamous dancing cannabis leaves. Tonight's hemp news starts out with a new study that says cannabis intoxication does not adversely impact decision making. From New York City, experienced cannabis users perform tasks as accurately after having smoked cannabis as they do sober, according to clinical trial data published in the Journal of Clinical and Experimental Neuropsychology. Investigators at New York State Psychiatric Institute and Columbia University assessed the impact of acute cannabis intoxication on the decision-making abilities of 36 subjects, as assessed by the Iowa Gambling Task Performance Test. Volunteers completed the gambling task once sober and 3 times after smoking cannabis, or a placebo. Though cannabis intoxication increased the time required for subjects to complete their tasks, the volunteers' accuracy was not adversely impacted by cannabis. The authors concluded, quote, advantageous card selection and money earned on the task were not disrupted by marijuana. These data are consistent with previous findings that indicated that speed of performance on tests of executive function, but not accuracy, is disrupted in experienced marijuana users during marijuana intoxication, end quote. The full text of this study, Acute Effects of Smoked Marijuana on Decision Making, as assessed by a modified gambling task in experienced marijuana users, appears in the Journal of Clinical and Experimental Neuropsychology. Our next story is about cannabis and tobacco. The combined use of cannabis and tobacco is associated with chronic pulmonary disease. Individuals who regularly smoke cigarettes and marijuana experience a greater likelihood of developing symptoms of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, than do individuals who smoke cigarettes only, according to clinical data presented this week at the 2007 International Conference of American Thoracic Society. Investigators at St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver, British Columbia, reported that the combined use of tobacco and marijuana was associated with an increased risk of COPD among individuals age 40 and older. The researchers found that cigarette-only smokers were 2.5 times more likely than non-smokers to develop COPD, while those subjects who reported smoking both substances were 3.5 times more likely. The investigators did not report whether individuals who consumed only cannabis were at a higher risk for developing COPD compared to non-users. A recent meta-analysis published by the Archives of Internal Medicine reports that although chronic cannabis smoking is associated with an elevated risk of respiratory complications, including an increase in cough, sputum production, and wheezing, it's not associated with a decline in pulmonary function. The authors of the Canadian study did not suggest whether vaporizing cannabis would reduce its adverse interaction with tobacco smoke. Last month, investigators at San Francisco General Hospital reported that use of a volcano vaporizing device significantly reduces cannabis consumers' intake of gaseous combustion toxins, including carbon monoxide. A separate study conducted by investigators at the University of Albany in New York reports that marijuana consumers who vaporize cannabis are less likely to suffer from respiratory symptoms than those who do not vaporize, after controlling for the subject's age, sex, and cigarette use. Vaporization heats cannabis to a temperature where active cannabinoid vapors form, typically around 180 to 190 degrees Celsius, or 350 to 390 degrees Fahrenheit. But below the point of combustion, which is 210 degrees Celsius and 454 degrees Fahrenheit, where noxious smoke and associated toxins are produced, i.e. carcinogenic hydrocarbons. That's above 230 degrees Celsius. The abstracts of this study, the impact of cigarette and marijuana smoking in chronic obstructive lung disease in Vancouver, Canada, are available online at thoracic.org. That's THORACIC.org. Todd Makarria, MD, one of the world's foremost authorities on the therapeutic use of cannabis, died on Sunday morning at 4 a.m. after a multi-year battle with cancer. He was 73 years old. Dr. Makarria spent more than 4 decades investigating the medical utility of cannabis, beginning with an appointment as the director of marijuana research for the National Institute of Mental Health in 1967. In 1972, he published Marijuana Medical Papers, 1839 through 1972, a collection of historical use of medicinal cannabis papers in Western culture. He later became an outspoken advocate for marijuana law reform and played a key role in persuading the California legislature to decriminalize cannabis possession in 1975. Makarria gained prominence among modern marijuana activists by speaking in favor of the medicinal use of cannabis for a wide variety of psychosomatic indications such as anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and alcoholism. Dr. Makarria was the co-author of California's Proposition 215 initiative, which was the first medical marijuana initiative that passed in California in '96. Makarria is credited with drafting the language that authorizes physicians to recommend cannabis for any other illness for which marijuana provides relief, a clause which remains unique to California's medical marijuana law. After Proposition 215's passage in 1996, Dr. Makarria became one of the most prolific recommenders of medicinal cannabis, a stance that made him a frequent target of both the California Medical Board and the federal government. In the decades since the law's enactment, Dr. Makarria recommended marijuana to an estimated 9,000 patients. Makarria was awarded several awards, including the Lester Grinspoon Award by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Law, in recognition of his lifetime work in support of the legalization of cannabis and medicinal cannabis. According to Dale Garinger of California Normal, he said, quote, Todd was a true pioneer of cannabis medicine. At a time when its medical use had been abandoned, he rediscovered the forgotten medical literature on cannabis and agitated to restore it to the pharmacopoeia. Todd later campaigned to make this a reality by helping to draft Proposition 215, and after its passage, he went on to found the modern practice of cannabis medicine, end quote. Makarria was a mentor of mine, and in fact our clinics in Oregon were just simply imitating what Dr. Todd had begun down in California. And I'm very happy to say that in the month before Dr. Makarria passed away, our organization, the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF, purchased his medical practice, and Dr. Orvald is going to start seeing patients at Makarria's El Cerrito office next week there in California. There is a memorial service for Makarria today, and there are a number of tributes to him out on the internet. You can look at his website, which is a wealth of information at Makarria.com. That's MIKURIYA.com. And we have some videotapes we'll be playing here a little bit later on of him at our Hempstock Festival last year, second annual Hempstock Festival, and at the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards. So we'll be playing that a little bit. But we're done with the Hemp News segment now, and now we'll go to a little musical interlude. How are you doing this week, Tim?
I'm doing really well. How are you, Paul?
Very, very well.
It's, summer's coming on. It's starting to get hot around here, so I'm just glad to be around right now.
Well, you
I've
got
lived my competition to this point.
You got Wolfie in hat and jacket, and I would guess there's probably a harmonica in your hand, Wolfie. Aha.
There is.
All right. Well, that must mean you're going to play the blues.
Well, you know what? I spent 14 years in Eugene, and I really loved playing in Eugene. And for like 5 of those years, I had a chance to lead a jazz jam in a little bar called Joe Federico's. And so I wrote a song about Joe Federico's Cafe and Jazz Bar. And that's what I'm going to do tonight. And
all right.
He's going to join me. There was a man named Joe. He owned a joint downtown. They say he was good with the ladies. They'd always come around Joe. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. I said, look out, Joe. I said, look out, Joe. I said, look out, Joe. And one day he meets a lady at his joint downtown. Something about this lady said, Joe, don't fool around, boy. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. I said, look out, Joe. I said, look out, Joe. I said, look out, Joe. So he says to this lady, hey, baby, what's your name? She just stood and looked at him like she knew his game, boy. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. I said, look out, Joe. I said, look out, Joe. I said, look out, Joe. So he says to this lady, hey, baby, what's your name? She just stood and looked at him like she knew his game, boy. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. I said, look out, Joe. I said, look out, Joe. I said, look out, Joe. Now Joe and this lady, they're together every day. But it took a ring for that girl to play, boy. Oh no. Oh no, no, no.
Very good, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess if you're out there and you have a question for us tonight on the 25th of May, 2007, then you can give us a call. We'll be taking your calls right up to the top of the hour, and the number to call is 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. And we do have a caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
How you doing?
Very well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. My name's Jeff, and I'm a card holder. And I just appreciate you fellas, and Don is a very close friend of mine, acquaintance. And I just called to say hi. I'm just sitting here medicating, just feeling good. And
all right. Well, I'm glad you did.
I just appreciate you fellas.
Well, we appreciate you, our loyal viewers.
That's it.
Thanks for watching.
All right, you guys have a good night.
Keep trying to tell the truth to power.
That's it.
That's what it's all about.
Spread the love.
We will.
That's it.
Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
If you're out there and you have a question for us tonight, give us a call at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. Hey, Tim.
Hello, Paul.
Boy, you have to dry off after a little work session.
I keep my towel with me. You know, you can travel anywhere in the universe if you kept a towel.
I had to carry one anytime I was traveling around China because I'd wring it out every now and then. Every couple hours, I'd get a big puddle under it too. You know. So.
It seems to be very humid today. So
it is. It is.
It's
starting to get toward the warmer months finally.
I have an old tradition too. The moment I start playing my first note, I start sweating.
That sounds like me.
They say never let you see you sweat, but I'm afraid that I let them see me sweat. It's part of my game.
There's nothing I can do about it.
Me neither.
I know when I was there at City Hall, where we were there together about a week and a half ago, it was just pouring off. Somebody said they thought I was crying, but it was really perspiration.
Well, you know, that's a good subject. We ought to talk about that for a minute. Now, as I understand it right now, we have the opportunity to renegotiate with the city of Portland.
That's right. Our Hemp Stock Festival is not currently permitted yet.
Right.
However, we've turned in a security plan. We're supposed to hear back on that security plan by next Tuesday.
Right on.
Our attorney, Ann Whitty, is standing by ready to sue the city. I don't think the city wants to be sued.
I don't want to sue the city.
I don't want to sue the city.
So, I'd rather avoid that. I'd like to, think that we could come to some negotiable point that we can have an event.
But until we threatened to sue them and went to city council, they weren't even willing to negotiate.
I know.
The day after the city council presentation that UI and Andrew and Ann Whitty made, the next day they said they were ready to get a security plan and see what we would do to stop the widespread use of marijuana and alcohol that they say took place at last year's Hemp Stock Festival. I didn't see any alcohol use myself at all, no less the widespread use of alcohol. And if we wanted to get a permit and sell alcohol, we could. What do they say about when they set up alcohol areas in the park? That's another story, but, we'll talk more about that. We have a caller, though. Hello, caller.
Hi.
Howdy.
Hello.
I'm sitting here looking at you. I've been watching your show for a long time, and I finally got through.
Congratulations.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm a card carrier. It's a blessing to my life.
It really is.
Yeah, I have some questions, though. In the beginning, it was like 3 females and only, a large amount of babies.
And we were limited to 7 plants initially here in Oregon, and they
7 females?
To 24 now, but out of those 24,
we're allowed
only
24 females?
What?
We're allowed 24 flowering females?
No. We're only allowed 6 flowering females.
Okay.
We're allowed 18 little cuttings that are less than a foot tall and a foot wide.
Oh,
now, your 6 plants don't all have to be flowering, but they can be if you want them to be.
Really?
You could have 5 flowering and 1 mother plant, and then make 18 little cuttings.
Exactly.
And, you know,
exactly.
something like that would be a good mixture. Or you just grow 6 plants outdoors and let them get as big as they can. Now, that's in Oregon. In Washington, the law says you can have a 60-day supply, and the state legislature just passed Bill 6032, which says that the health department's going to, within the next 6 months, have a series of hearings and set a limit that below which the police can't seize plants. In fact, under the new Washington law that passed, it will be illegal for the police to seize plants from this point forward.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I noticed when it first started out, we had a smaller amount of what we could have, and then they almost doubled it.
Yeah.
Are they?
Well, they've more than doubled it.
Yeah.
Initially,
Okay.
here in Oregon, we could have a 3-ounce supply, and now in Oregon, a patient can have 24 ounces. So that's an 8-fold increase.
And has that? I found in my experience that it lasts me so long before my next one, because I'm just learning to do the clone thing, because they grow faster from clone than from seed.
Sure.
And do you think they'll ever? It isn't enough to last me till my next time at this point. Do you think that we should be actually allowed maybe 3 or 4 more flowering females than we have?
It all depends on how you flower them. I can easily get a pound a plant indoors.
Wow.
You just have to vegetate them a little longer. You want to vegetate them several months. I don't bud my plants till they're 5 or 6 feet tall.
Yeah, I like mine to get about up to my neck, about 5 foot.
Yeah. Then I find one good thing to do is I flower mine in 15-gallon containers.
Really?
I take them from a 5-gallon pot, and about a week before I put them on the flower cycle, I transplant them into a 15-gallon container, but I plant them at a 60 or 70 degree angle, so they're sideways like that. Then all the side branches turn up and turn into colas.
Really?
So, yeah, really. And so you can maximize your harvest by turning a tall plant on its side, then all of those side branches
bending it over.
become huge tops.
Or it doesn't matter? You talk about laying the potter on its side or just bending the plant over?
I take the 5-gallon pot and then dropping it into a 15-gallon container.
Okay.
I turn it sideways and put it in at an angle.
About
so
45.
the plant's coming out
I see the plant. You just put the plant sideways.
Degrees, about 50 or 60 or 70 degrees. And then the plant turns up, all the side branches turn up and become a big candelabra, so to speak, of flowering tops.
Yeah, I'm having really good luck now that I've kept a cleaner room because I had a problem with spider mites and gnats.
But mold and mildew can all cause lots of problems and cut your production back dramatically.
It sure did. I've had some of the nicest, healthiest ones, but I'm trying to learn how to do a maximize things. I was just curious if they would ever give us more than we were, if they're going to raise it. Is that enough?
No, it's not going to be raised here in Oregon anytime soon. However, there is talk of an initiative to set up dispensaries. And in fact, if you need information on growing, we have classes where a fellow who writes High Times articles, the medicine man,
and those classes cost what?
Classes.
How many classes are there?
Well, there are 6 classes, and they're pretty darn cheap too. And so
there ain't no amount of money
classes, just give our office a call.
I did. I certainly will now.
Yeah, they're very informative. You get the full curriculum of the classes to take home with you. And there's resource material. I know there are beginning growing classes, advanced gardening classes, how to make medical grade hashish, a class on that, and other things.
Is that a rather easy thing to do?
Yeah, it's very easy.
Okay, I'm going to be getting a hold of you guys. I want to tie up everybody's time here because I know there's other people that need those important questions. I want to thank you guys so much. I watch you all the time.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thanks for watching.
Huh?
You are welcome, and thanks for watching.
Yeah, it's nice that they're treating us right now, and I just wish they'd stay off our back and leave us alone, you know.
Well, so far they've been doing that.
Yeah,
so,
and
at least I hope they are for you.
Yeah, they have. I've had no problems,
Great.
and I noticed that I am switching because I've got the book. I studied this stuff, and it's true that vegetation state's better for halide and for flower it's HPS.
Right.
But I've learned also that for some reason HPS, I start out right from the get-go with that, and they do just fine.
Yeah, they work just as well. The HPS, it's really lumens is what you're looking for in cultivation. That lumens are a way of measuring light, and the more lumens there are, the more they're going to grow. and HPS puts out more lumens, and the bulbs last twice as long as the halide bulbs.
Really?
The halide bulbs, you need to replace your bulbs every 6 months. With your sodium bulbs, you have to replace them once a year.
I'm due to replace my bulb then because I've used it for 2 years.
Oh yeah, you know what? After a year, you or I can't really tell it, but the output of that bulb has dropped down to half of what it was when it was new. And once it's 2 years old, you probably only have 20 or 30% of the light you would have with a new bulb.
Thank you for the information. I got to go get a new bulb.
Yeah, you're wasting your electricity if you don't replace your halide bulbs every 6 months and your sodium bulbs every 12 months.
Wow.
The lumen output drops dramatically.
That's important. See, I picked up something.
Is.
That means I'm in there burning up my electricity.
I've actually seen, when I replaced my bulbs, more than a doubling in output, just because the bulbs were replaced. Oh, God, I got to get a bulb. I got to get a bulb right away. Okay. Glad we made you aware of that.
Oh man, I'm totally. I mean, now I know why they're growing slower. I've noticed they are growing slower.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys have a good night.
Is that a halide bulb or a sodium bulb?
No, it's a high pressure sodium.
So it's probably putting out about 30 or 40% of the light that it had when it was new. If it was a halide bulb that was 2 years old, you'd probably be down in the 25% range.
Yeah, but you know what? I've only used it for about two crops, so I don't know if that's actually, it hasn't been on straight for 2 years, but it's been for a year anyway, so it would still be used.
Yeah, time to replace it. You'll notice the difference. You know, your eye can't really measure those lumens. A light meter can, but when you plug the new bulb in, you'll notice it's a lot brighter than your old bulb was.
Wow, interesting. Interesting. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
And you guys are also on Saturday night now, right?
You know, it plays all kinds of different times on different channels.
Oh, it does.
Up in Vancouver, Washington, it's playing on Saturday night at 10 o'clock, I believe. And then it plays in Seattle on Saturday night, too.
Yeah, it does.
What time is it? 11?
I think it's 11 at Saturday
11 o'clock
night.
on cable channel 78 in Seattle.
Hello to all our friends in Seattle.
It's also on Saturday night now in Denver.
And it's in Spokane as well.
Yep, Spokane and Salem.
Wow. So it's not legal in Washington yet.
No, it is. Medical marijuana is legal in
When
Washington.
did that happen?
And in fact, that happened the same time it passed here in Oregon in 1998.
A friend of mine was transporting some for me and got nailed over there. Anyway, I'm going to have to let you go. I know there are other important information other people have to ask. You guys have just gave me a ton.
Well, we're glad to do it.
You have a good night.
Try to call back in sometime. That was a good series of questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, a ton is a lot, too, when you think about it.
That's 2,000 pounds.
That's a lot.
That is. Yeah. Well, I think we are taking your calls tonight, and that number there, 503-288-4448, is the number to call if you want to call in and get on the show. If you're interested in taking those classes, or you have one of the conditions that qualify for medical marijuana, or if you don't, if a loved one or someone you care about does, we have doctors all across the western United States that can help you get a medical marijuana permit. The number one condition that patients have for medical marijuana is chronic pain. And I'd say over 60% of the patients have chronic pain. Also, spastic conditions, conditions that cause chronic and severe muscle spasms. That's probably number two. Seizure disorders like epilepsy, neurodegenerative diseases like multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's, glaucoma, AIDS, cancer, severe nausea, and things that cause severe nausea like GERD or hepatitis C or Crohn's disease or IBS. All of those qualify for medical marijuana, and asthma qualifies as a spastic disorder. So if you're in the Portland area and you want to get involved with those classes to learn how, you have to have a medical card to attend those classes. And we want to also invite Washington patients to come down to our Oregon clinic, and they can take those classes as well. In Portland, the number to call is 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. Up in Seattle, our Seattle number is 878. Or actually, it's 206-878-1701. That's 206-878-1701. If you're in Denver, the Denver number is 303-403-9996. That's 303-403-9996. And if you're watching the show anywhere else in the western United States, whether it be Washington State, Oregon, California, Nevada, Hawaii, Colorado, we have doctors who can help you all across the western United States call us for a referral at our toll-free number. That's 1-800-723-0188. 800-723-0188. And we do have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show. Hello, caller.
Are you out there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Hey.
There we go. Hey, at the beginning of the show, this is Chad, by the way, we've talked before.
Patty.
At the beginning of the show, you were citing that study about lung problems from long time smoking. And you mentioned a website at the end of it.
Yeah, that's thoracic.org, I believe.
Oh, really? Just that simple?
thoracic.org.
Okay, because this is.
And that's about the combined. The study was on the combined use of tobacco and cannabis, causing chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
My doctor wants to see some information about the vaporizers.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of very good information and studies out there on vaporization as well.
Yeah.
So they're readily available. There's just some new data released just this month on how vaporization of cannabis doesn't cause chronic lung disease.
Where is that available, or do you know?
You know, I can't tell you right off the top of my head, but I'm sure a quick Google search would find it. Or check out our show. I think it was on last week.
It was.
We talked about it. Yeah. You can watch these on YouTube on demand too. If any show you want to watch, if you want to tell any of your family or friends throughout the United States to tune into this show, just send them to YouTube and have them enter Cannabis Common Sense into the search field, and the shows will pop up.
Splendid.
Yeah.
All right. Well, an end to total prohibition right away.
That's what we're for. You know, medical marijuana is a very useful medicine for a lot of different conditions, but once marijuana is legally regulated and sold to adults over the counter, medical marijuana will become incredibly inexpensive, and industrial hemp will take its rightful place in terms of wiping out our dependence on the petrochemical industry.
That's an issue that is beyond most people's understanding of
true.
How much that could help. Thank you. Talk to you again.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
So we have some videotape of Dr. Todd McCrea. You know, Dr. McCrea has been a mentor of mine. I met him back when I was 24 here in Oregon. I actually saw him for the first time when I was 18.
Oh, wow.
I went to Washington, D.C., and he was one of the speakers at the Washington Smoke-In on July 4th, 1978. So I saw him there in a powdered wig and a tri-corner hat. And
Perfect.
He was a great man. And
I got a chance to see him, to meet him when we had some testimony when Barbara Roberts, her husband, had put forth a bill many years ago. Frank Roberts. And Dr. Todd came up to testify, and I was also there to testify that day.
Right.
And then last year at the Hemp stock.
Yeah, you got to play backup to him.
I
think we have some videotape of that.
Oh, I enjoyed that. It was
really great. I was so happy that he could make it there. You know, he almost died more than a full year before he passed away.
Yeah.
He had tumors from liver cancer that metastasized and closed some of his ducting in his liver, and they were able to open that back up, which gave him a new lease on life, and he lived more than a year. You know, considering he had lung cancer, most people with lung cancer are dead in 2 or 3 months. He used cannabis quite heavily, and he lived for almost 2 years with that disease.
Wow. Way
past the expectations of most people. And I think it was a direct result of his cannabis use.
I think it's appropriate. His middle name was Hero.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I do.
I guess we're going to take a phone call before we go to the videotape. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi, guys. This is Deborah. I met at the city council meeting. I'd like to urge everyone to do the same thing, to go to a city council meeting and see our fine mayor in action. And I myself was embarrassed that day, but I'm glad that you're making... It was
pretty strange. I really enjoyed meeting you that day.
Thank you.
And it was amazing how I didn't expect the whole Rose Festival court to be out in all their regalia. It was kind of like going into the British,
House of Commons.
Something like that.
Yeah. They certainly have a down look on us, don't they?
They certainly did. Yeah, we are the lower life forms in their universe, you know.
Yeah,
not forever.
We know we aren't, and we're happy to be here. You can classify us, they can classify us any way we want, but we know the truth, and we know that they're representing lies.
That's right.
The truth's got to win in the end.
Well, we got to get more people involved like that. Otherwise, we'll never get everything legalized and regulated and done the right way, and for the law to be where we can actually grow and it works for all of us. And it was a pleasure to meet all of you, and we hope to have hemp stock go through. And
we're definitely going to have it.
Yeah, we will.
It's going to go forward. It's going to be on September 8th and 9th. We've got Tommy Chong signed up as our MC, or the Master of Ceremonies. We've got some other artists we're working on and hope to be able to announce in the near future. A lot of the folks who played last year are going to be there again. It should be a lot of fun. We're not going to be at the waterfront park, and we aren't sure which park we're going to be at yet.
Maybe Delta Park, or
it turns out there's a lot of soccer games at Delta Park.
Oh yeah,
and so we might look at Cathedral Park, and we'll just see.
Oh, Cathedral Park's wonderful. It's beautiful under the St. John's Bridge there. That's a great idea.
It's a beautiful view, is what I've heard.
It is.
We have some options, and we're willing to look at those options as long as the city is willing to continue their renegotiation position with us. So,
and if they're not, if for some reason they decide that they are going to continue to oppose us getting this permit, we'll take them to court. We're ready to do that at the drop of a hat.
Ready to fight. It was a pleasure to meet you all that day, and you guys do great work.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. So I'm hoping we'll have that videotape ready to roll. Dr. Makarria? Okay. This is Dr. Todd Makarria. We'll talk a little bit about it once we come back. But here's our hero, my mentor, Dr. Todd McCrea.
So here's Todd Makarria, the guru of ganja from Berkeley, California. How many times have you heard someone say, if I had his money, I could do things my way. But nowadays, it's so hard to find one rich man in 10 with a satisfied mind. Once I was waiting in fortunes and fame, everything that I dreamed for, to get a start in life's game. And suddenly it happened that I lost every dime. But I'm richer by far, with a satisfied mind. Money can't buy back your youth when you're old, or friends when you're lonely, or a love that's grown cold. The wealthiest person is a pauper at times, compared with the man with a satisfied mind. When life has ended, my time has run out. My friends and my loved ones, I will leave them no doubt. And one thing for certain, when it comes my time, I'll leave this old world with a satisfied mind.
So we have some very, very special guests coming up next. This next speaker, it is my true honor to introduce. He is one of our great heroes in this movement. He actually, quite literally, could have saved cannabis from obscurity. he's been working on this issue since the 60s and been active with the first medical marijuana research. Anything to do with medical marijuana in California and many other states, this man has had some input and some input into in a medical way and as a patient, and just really gives a lot of insight. His name is Dr. Todd McCrea. He's come up all the way from California. Right now, he's probably dealing with one of the greatest challenges of his life in battling cancer. So when he comes up on stage, please give him as much healing energy as he can, because he's going to need it to beat the cancer, as he will, and it is. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure to bring you Dr. Todd Makarria.
Thank you very much. Well, actually, to start things out, I'd like to sing a couple songs. Okay, I'm into the mic. And the first one is a song that I wrote in response to I'm Glad I'm Not an Okie from Muskogee. They rot their minds and bodies with white lightning, strewing highways with slaughters of the drunks, while the cops are busy raiding bedrooms of the marijuana smoking leftist punks. I'm glad I'm not an Okie from Muskogee, where the mind and the conscience are asleep, frightened and kept ignorant from childhood. Is it any wonder that they act like sheep? The local campus hero is the jockstrap, scholarship and brand new shiny car, making business good for the abortionist who pays the sheriff who runs the local bar. Sex education is sent here by the devil. We hear a pious aging preacher bray, keep our children just as ignorant as we were, and the welfare rolls keep growing day by day. Nixon, Mitchell, Agnew were their heroes, and the Indochina War a holy cause. The widow's flags from our dead sons' pine boxes repay us for a war outside the laws. I'm glad I'm not an Okie from Muskogee, where the mind and the conscience are asleep, frightened and kept ignorant from childhood. Is it any wonder that they act like sheep? Apropos of it being Sunday, this other song is the worst of what happens when religion meets rock and roll. Say your prayers every night, go to church on Sunday, you'll get to heaven. Not now, but one day, 'cause although he was a Jew, Jesus was a teenager too. So do all your homework, be nice to your teachers, pay due attention to policemen and preachers, 'cause I'm telling you, Jesus was a teenager too. Now Jesus, he didn't go to drag strips, and he didn't talk for hours on the phone, and he didn't go to drive-in movies. He spent his whole life all alone. So last night at the dance at the high school gym, she was dancing with Freddie, but she was thinking of him, 'cause although he was a Jew, Jesus was a teenager too. Thank you very much, Kim Pate. Once upon a time, 1959, many years ago, I was a sophomore in medical school, and I was smitten by an inappropriate stroke of curiosity when I read a selection in a textbook called Goodman and Gilman about cannabis, which whetted my curiosity because it was prohibited, but medically it sounded as if it was pretty benign. This curiosity led me to read everything in the medical school library, and then eventually permitted me to infiltrate to the heart of the beast, the National Institute of Mental Health, where I was hired as a research psychiatrist to study cannabis. At this time, cannabis was seen as a real threat to society because in 1967, when I was there, all hell was breaking loose, with Lyndon B. Johnson trying to keep up the pretext of patriotism as he moved forward on the war in Vietnam. And the anti-war demonstrations were just tremendous in scope. I just wish we would see these kinds of protests again. But marijuana was seen as something dangerous that was being adopted by subversive organizations like California communes. And they saw the end of civilization coming near because the legal governance was breaking down as they sent more and more young men off to be killed in Vietnam. Unfortunately, I came out to California and ended up defecting. And there I fled and did my practice of psychiatry until things started happening in California. It happened starting in the Haight-Ashbury and in the Castro in the response to the AIDS epidemic, where different kinds of effective medicines were unknown. But what was discovered was cannabis would prevent nausea and vomiting and permit the use of different kinds of medicines for treating AIDS and the chemotherapy. Well, this snowballed, and what started in the Castro was taken under the wing of the political pros, and we went statewide, and we passed Proposition 215. 2 years later, same kind of thing passed up here in Oregon. Since that time, I've had opportunities to evaluate over 11,000 patients for their use of cannabis. And what has impressed me is cannabis is both safe, effective, and a viable substitute for many medications used to manage chronic illness that's far safer and free from adverse effects. Unfortunately, the forces of evil, namely the greed of the pharmaceutical companies, coupled with the criminal justice sorehead losers, don't want to admit this to be a medicine and will do everything they can to suppress it. Right now, I'm on probation by the medical board, but nevertheless continue to practice. This was less of a penalty than was inflicted on your main physician up here, Dr. Philip Levesque, whose license was lifted after a kangaroo court stripped him of it, and the corrupt Oregon Medical Association, or rather the Board of Medical Examiners, took it away from him. It's really sad here in Oregon that they're not realistic about regulating cannabis, although it's better than nothing. We really should have dispensaries, although in California it's devolved into virtual anarchy. The big difference here in Oregon is, how can I get into the program? Down in California, it's, dude, where's my medicine? and there's a sense of entitlements, and we have about 250,000 Californians who are eligible, and we have many, many doctors now who are now making recommendations and approvals. We need to get adequate compliance throughout our states because there are still pockets of resistance and corruption by different kinds of police agencies. It's hard to say which it is, ignorance or just willful, mean-spirited misconduct and breaking of the law, because the law does mandate that we have safe and affordable access, but we don't see different government entities rushing to comply. I hope that the Oregon Medical Marijuana Office can get its act together and start doing some scientific studies on that huge pile of completed forms they have piling up in their office. Well, down in California, we don't have any office like that, and so it's really unknown, so many things, except for different kinds of medical groups that are in fact collecting data. And I'm a member of the Society of Cannabis Clinicians that has members both in Oregon as well as California and Washington.
Okay, that is Dr. Todd McCrea, who sadly passed away last week. He's the pioneer in medical marijuana. We're really proud and happy that he could come to our Hempstock Festival last year. I'm also very proud and happy to help keep his practice going there in California. And Dr. Orvald, who's been on this show, is going to be down there seeing his patients just next week.
It's a sad note, but you know, I see somebody like him as a pioneer. Like Jack Herrera and several others, and you and I both know that when we look at out among all the young people out there, they see that as such a good example that here is somebody who really lived his life, and despite the fact that he was a medical professional, he still believed in the use of medical marijuana and was strong about that. I think we can all take a good strong lesson from that. He's
a brilliant man, a genius. Years from now, he will still be well regarded for reintroducing medicinal cannabis into our pharmacopoeia, just like O'Shaughnessy did. And O'Shaughnessy was his hero back in 1839. I guess we do have a caller, though. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hello. My name's Johnny.
Hi, Johnny.
I'm a card-carrying fella.
Good. Congratulations.
And, man, that was pure gold, that clip you just showed.
It was.
Thank you.
Man,
yeah, it was
that
real
was,
emotional
and
for me.
what a sweet voice for a man with lung cancer.
True.
Yeah.
And I would suggest, and I would be glad to volunteer, to create a MySpace in his honor.
Yeah.
If someone hasn't already done it, but you would have to make that available to be put on as a video clip or on YouTube.
Yeah, it is right now. It's available. We want to thank Lex at Sky High Productions.
Absolutely.
And he's got it on his website right now. We'll be linking it into ours as well. I'm not sure about the MySpace, but I do know he has his website out there. It's still there. Doesn't note that he passed away last week, but it's Makarria.com. That's M-I...
Yeah, well, MySpace, I used to try to worry about making a website, but why make a website when millions of people are on MySpace? It's so much more exposure for it.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he had a MySpace account. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that. But if you...
Kind of like Bob Moog. Somebody made him a MySpace, Bob Moog.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
well, I know on my part, I'm certainly welcome to be associated with him, and I know I got a chance to play up there with him on stage, and
man,
it was a singular honor in my life.
I was jamming out on my guitar to it along with you, and I was going, wow, I would love to back you up at the next Hemp Fest.
Cool.
Anyway, my question is, I have a qualifying condition, of course, and have a card, and if I have something, okay, I don't care about it. It's an intussusceptive colon, and it has to be operated on, but then health plan said, oh, it's not life-threatening, so we won't operate on it. After I went through probably, 6 months of OHSU testing and eating all kinds of nice barium and every honey and syrup you could. Anyway, so are they going to change the law? And this is I heard about this from another gentleman that runs a nonprofit, and he said that they might try and change that law. They're all activists and stuff. That the next, like if you've had it for 2 years and had a card, you have to go back to your original doctor, which I can't even get that doctor.
Uh-huh.
And,
well, we have a whole series of specialists that can help if you can't get back to the same doctor. It doesn't really matter.
The guy at your clinic, because I was issued my card this year from your clinic, and the man I talked to, he was kind of sad when he goes, well, what's their plan? And I said, well, they said to operate, but then, of course, my health coverage won't cover it. And I really didn't want to get that, stomach surgery or whatever. So
sure.
As long as my condition hadn't changed, of course, that intussusceptive colon isn't going to just cut and graft itself back together on its own.
Sure.
So unless I get the surgery, then my qualifying condition. I also have the muscle spasms from some kind of a back thing,
Sure.
So I have the spasms really bad, and it's been so much of a relief for me to be able to use my medicine legally.
It really is. It really is.
And I'm amazed at so many people that don't know about the availability.
Well, that's why we do this show, to try to educate folks that there are a lot of different conditions that qualify for medical marijuana, and we're happy to help get more and more people qualified.
Yeah, well,
those are the conditions right there. You know what? We're running out of time, though.
Oh, okay.
So I hate to close you down.
That's all right.
Tim's jumped over and is grabbing his guitar.
What a wonderful song that was.
It really was. It really was. Thanks for your comments, and thanks for your call.
Love you guys, man.
Tune in next
for doing
week.
this on a Friday night.
Great.
Bye, Paul.
All right. Thanks for calling. Yeah, if you have... Oh, yeah, the camera's going off. If you have one of those conditions, whether it be chronic pain, nausea, AIDS, glaucoma, irritable bowel syndrome, a seizure or spastic disorder, asthma, GERD, hepatitis C, Crohn's disease, cancer, all of those can qualify for a medical marijuana permit. If you need to find a doctor, we have resources for you. You can call us at 503-235-4606 here in the Portland area. That's 503-235-4606. We also have classes, so medical card holders can find out how to grow. We have beginner and advanced classes and a number of others, so check with us on those. If you're up in Seattle, the number is 206-878-1701. That's 206-878-1701 in Seattle. In Denver, it's 303-403-9996. And finally, if you're outside of the Portland, Seattle, Denver area, we can help you in California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and Hawaii. Call us toll free at 1-800-723-0188. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week. Help us restore hemp. And we miss you, Dr. Todd. You ready to play, Tim?
Good night to Don DuPay. We love you too, buddy.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.